Welcome to the Natural Health Podcast, where we bring awareness of sustainable health in the business hustle space. The Natural Health Podcast is perfect for the high-performing, business-minded individuals who want to work with their biochemistry to achieve optimal health. It's Wednesday, which means it's time for What Would I Do? In today's episode of the Natural Health Podcast, we discuss this week's question. All questions are kept confidential. I read them and answer them as if it was me, hence why it's called What Would I Do? The information provided is not to be taken as advice and is solely for information purposes only. I am not here to cure, treat, or provide medical advice. I'm here to educate and inform you so you're able to take steps towards optimal health. Please discuss any medical issues or healthcare changes with your healthcare professional. Let's get into today's question. Today's question is, I have been thinking about going into the float tank and using float tank therapy. I was wondering, what are your thoughts on float tank therapy? What are the benefits to it, and are there any dangers? Wow, what a great question. Usually the questions I get is about certain diseases, certain symptoms and signs. I don't usually get questions like this, so I really appreciate it because it puts a different spin on What Would I Do Wednesdays. So, float tanks, let's get into it. The thing is I have used a float tank before, so I'm able to give you information on experience, and I have had the same questions that are running through your heads. I want to use it. What are the benefits? Are there any disadvantages? Am I putting myself at risk, or is it okay to use? So I thought I would start off by actually talking a little bit about float therapy first. And when I did my research for it, I was amazed at this because I didn't even know this information, right? So the float tank is a sensory deprivation tank therapy. You would have seen a lot of them there. So essentially it's like a little eggshell. Well, it depends when you go to. This one is an eggshell thing that I've been to, an eggshell thing, and it's filled with water and salt, and therefore you float. You can close it off. The whole purpose of it is to deprive you of all sensations, feeling, touch, gravity, and so forth, which is absolutely crazy, right? So the flotation therapy is essentially a way of achieving deep relaxation by spending an hour of lying quietly in darkness. So it sounds a little bit crazy, doesn't it? It's kind of like, why would you want to do that? Well, there's so many benefits for it, right? So the first actual tank was designed in 1954 by John C. Lilly, who's an American physician and neuroscientist. He designed the tank to study the origins of consciousness by cutting off all external stimulus. How crazy is that, right? So the history with it is, by 1981, there were about $4 million in sale and rentals in the industry, and expectations were that the market was going to boom, right? However, and that was all because of the movie Altered States, which was quite interesting. But however, what came out in the 90s is because of the rise of AIDS, the fear of shared water reduced demand for flotation centers. However, then back in 2013, the demand of flotation tanks in Europe just skyrocketed, exceeded the US market, and now we are somewhere where there's a float tank just around the corner. I know here in Australia, you can just get a float tank in nearly every major city, a few actually, and there's a huge market for it. So what essentially happens is the water in the sensory deprivation tank is heated to skin temperature and nearly saturated with Epsom salt, which is magnesium sulfate, which gives you that feeling so you're able to float, which allows you to float, right? Absolutely crazy. So essentially what you're supposed to do is supposed to enter the tank not wearing anything, so you don't have any sensation of feeling like your bather's rubbing against you or anything like that. That's an individual's choice. So what happens is it cuts you off out of outside stimulation, including sound, sight, and gravity. And then the fear kicks in, and this is where my fear kicked in, is when you put the tank thing down, right? You put it down and you're like, is this going to open? So what I did a few times is I kind of put it down and I was like, oh, open it up, make sure it opens. Oh, okay, it's closed. Oh, yep, it's open. Just to make sure. And then when I got a bit more comfortable, I closed it completely, and that is where the magic happened. It was absolutely crazy because here I was laying in this eggshell by myself, floating. So I'm literally not touching anything except the water. I'm floating. I can't hear anything. I can't see anything because it's complete darkness. There is an emergency button that you can press the light on, or if you need an emergency. And here I was, just in a state of amaze, in a state of, it was just beautiful. But then what happened to me is I rolled over and I got salt in my eyes, and that was the disaster. It was actually hilarious. Got salt in my eyes, opened the tank, tried to get it out, and then got into the other eye, and I was just like, oh my gosh. So when you go, just make sure that, you don't get the salt in your eyes, because that is definitely not relaxing, right? That was my first experience. But however, even though that occurred, when I stepped out and when I went to drive, which I'll talk about later, I was out of it. I felt so calm, even though that happened. So imagine if that doesn't happen, how calm you could be, right? So essentially, the thing is, the concept of flotation therapy is based on a theory that up to 90% of the brain's normal workload is estimated to be caused by effects of routine environmental stimuli, such as gravity, temperature, touch, light, sound. So we're constantly being bombarded with these stimuli that we don't even know, right? Our brain is trying to process the stimuli of this and that, and we don't even know it until we are cut off from it. And then when we're cut off from it, we're like, whoa, is this what it is? This is amazing. But your question was in regards to disadvantages and advantages. I'll give you some disadvantages before we go into the advantages, right? The first one is a rash, because there's so much salt available there. You may develop a rash, and this is why it's key to wash yourself off. Wash all of the salt off thoroughly, right? The second one is disorientation, which occurred to me. This is why it's key. Most of these places have this room where you just sit down to just calm down, to get your thoughts together before you go off into the world, into reality. The other one can be nausea and vomiting. Depends on the individual, what they're going through, if they're feeling anxious, if, so forth. The other one is also burning, because if you have any cuts, right, if you cut yourself, put salt on it, what happens? It's burning. It's not the best thing, right? The other one is you might feel absolutely exhausted and tired. This is one that occurs a lot with a lot of people, including myself, and this is why I'm going to give you tips on how to get the most out of it at the end. But let's look at the benefits. The benefits that I found were extraordinary. The number one I want to talk about is athletic performance. If you're an athlete or if you're training, this is absolutely amazing, right? So what happened is they documented the effects of tank therapy in athletes' performance. It was effective in speeding up recovery after strenuous physical training by decreasing blood lactate in a study of 24 students. A 2016 study of 60 elite athletes also found it improved psychological recovery following intense training competition. Not huge studies, but still showing improvements. The other one that a lot of people, this is amazing, is anxiety, right? Flotation therapy has been found to be effective in reducing anxiety. This is huge. A 2018 study showed that a single 1-hour session in a sensory deprivation tank was capable of significantly reducing anxiety and improved mood in 50 participants with stress and anxiety-related disorders. Another 2006 study of 46 people who self-reported anxiety found that it reduced anxiety such as depression and sleep difficulties, irritability, and fatigue. Yes, and I can vouch for this. It definitely does, because you're just cut off. It's just this amazing feeling that you're getting of relaxation. The other one is pain, right? So what they looked at is that this therapy on chronic pain has been confirmed by several studies. It showed to be effective in treating tension, headaches, muscle tension, and pain. There was a small study done. It found that effective in treating whiplash-associated disorders such as neck pain and stiffness, and reducing range of motion. Also shown to reduce stress-related pain. Okay, so if talking about stress-related pain, let's look at the other benefit, which is stress. So because when you go into this, into the tank, and you absolutely have no stimuli coming at you, well, not absolutely none, but minimal stimuli coming at you, you move from a sympathetic nervous system, which is the anxiety, stress driven, to a parasympathetic nervous system. And this is when the magic occurs, because when you're freed from external stimulation, your body can achieve a state of deep relaxation that has been even more shown to be more beneficial than sleep, because you're so relaxed, right? So because when you're sleeping, you're still receiving stimuli, right? It's the touch of the doona, your clothes, light, sound. When you're in this tank, you've got none of that. So it's been proven to assist with stress. It's absolutely amazing. So there you have it. I've gave you some advantages and disadvantages. Now, the questions that I would ask myself is this something that would help me? Is this something that I'm going to use on a regular basis, on a one-off to try it? Is this something that will reduce my anxiety, not raise my anxiety? How do I feel about doing it? Am I comfortable with the disadvantages that I've spoken about? Am I comfortable with the advantages? Am I going to go by myself? I'm going to go with someone, because you can actually go into a couples float, which is absolutely amazing. I've done that too. That is brilliant. Now the question is, what would I do, right? What would I do? Well, I would try it once, right? Talk to your healthcare professional if you have any, if you can use it according to your health condition and so forth, because it is recommended in some places such as pregnancy and so forth that you shouldn't use it. I would give it a go, right? But the thing is I would do it at afternoon, nighttime, because you're going to be so tired and so out of it. The other thing is also I would get dropped off and picked up. I wouldn't drive myself, or if I did drive myself, I would make sure I stay in that room for half an hour, just gathering my thoughts, being comfortable and not zoning out, because that is one of the things, right? Zoning out. So that's one of the things I'll do. I'll do it in the afternoon. I'll make sure I'm well hydrated. I make sure it's someone's dropping me off or picking me up, or I'm actually in a state where I'm able to calm myself back into reality, or calm myself, if that's a thing. But yeah, so that's kind of what would I do with flotation tank. I've gone in and used it myself. I would highly recommend it for other individuals to use. And on that note, I actually should book in a session and go do it again. But I hope this sheds some light to your question. Anyone listening who may have similar questions, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me at mahela.raguse on Instagram, and I'll be in touch with you and hopefully be able to answer your question via this podcast. Remember, you're not alone in a journey to optimal health. I'm here to assist you and make your journey a pleasant one. Until next Wednesday, love you.